This movie tries to be deep, but I don't think anybody's gonna like it. Hey everyone, my name is Ryan. Welcome to the channel, and today on the channel I'm going to be reviewing a horror film called Lovely, Dark, and Deep. This film is now premiering on VOD. It stars Georgina Campbell, Nick Blood, and Wai Ching Ho, and was directed by Teresa Sutherland, and this is her directorial debut. It's about a park ranger named Lennon who is wandering through the wilderness, and she's trying to uncover the origins of a haunted tragedy that happened in her childhood. Initially, what drew me into this film is the fact that it is a horror film. I love the poster. I knew the name, I didn't watch a trailer, and I didn't even know what it was about, but I did see that Georgina Campbell was in it, and she starred as the main character in Barbarian, so that's really what pulled me into this movie. Positives that I can say about this movie is the camera work itself is done really well. The whole atmosphere of the forest and being in the middle of nowhere with really tall trees, they really do utilize that, and they definitely have lots of different camera angles in here. There's overhead shots, there's drone shots, they do the famous upside down horror shot. Negatives in camera work, I will knock that a little bit because it's not really anything new and it's being overused a little bit too much in the horror genre. She is part of the park rangers, and she has a few different other park rangers where she has a meeting in the beginning of the film, and they really talk about how the forest, how it just swallows up people and they go missing and they can't really find them as they wander off or they're never heard of again. So they create that intrigue and that mystery in the film, which really got me into like, okay, what's going to happen here? You have all these missing people. What is the reason for that? Georgina Campbell plays a character named Lennon, and I think she's trying her best here to really make this film work. When she goes out in the wilderness, a lot of times like her batteries are dying in her walkie-talkie, or she gets static, or she can't hear anybody. There's a part where she does find somebody in the forest and they get completely ticked off because she's wandering away from the path. During these times though, you get a lot of cool shots of like the river. There is a mix of darkness and also daytime shots in the film, which I did like that different kinds of settings because it's great to have both the daytime and the nighttime. So I definitely enjoyed that. There isn't a lot of other characters. Wai Ching Ho, the whole park ranger leader and commander, so to speak, I did like her character. We don't get a lot of her because a lot of times we are with Georgina Campbell most of the time. Now, even though we're in this wilderness and she's trying to find these missing people, she also has a little bit in her childhood past as well. And they dive into that a little bit. Specifically, they really try to incorporate the horror of her childhood past within this forest, and I don't think it really works, to be honest, because it does have some imagery which is horror imagery. There is a lot of hallucinations in this film. It's definitely one of those films where it's in her mind, or is it really actually happening? And you see that quite throughout the film, specifically when she finds a missing person and they don't really know if it's her or if they're imagining things. Those kinds of things, it keeps the film in mystery format. However, I felt the film felt very disjointed. It felt like it lacked a lot of meaning to it. It really failed to engage me after a while. Once she finds this woman and the park rangers get all mad at her, she then starts to suffer a lot of hallucinations and weird visions, and some of the imagery isn't bad, but the problem is it doesn't connect as a story. The main part of finding these missing people was the most intriguing to me, but we never really explore into that as to why they've gone missing. I didn't like that because I felt like that seemed like it would be something you could really dive into. Maybe like there's a monster, or maybe there's a killer on the loose, but there's none of that in this film. It feels very aimless, and it feels, when we get into certain parts of this film, it's very frustrating. There was one part where she's in this dark room and there's a bunch of different people in this room, and I don't really know exactly if that's really happening. I don't think it is. I think it's a hallucination, honestly. And she just screams out, "I have no idea what's going on." And I had to laugh because I was like, neither do I, because this film, it just kind of goes on and on and on. It's not a long film. It's only about 85 minutes, but it feels really long in its length because it just doesn't have a very good story. And I feel that a lot of people are going to be really bored by this. I did look up some reviews of the audience score because there's not a lot on Letterboxd. I know that Rotten Tomatoes, there's a few as well. And it seems like a lot of people, they just don't really understand this film. And I have a hard time actually getting the message of this film. I think there is some kind of message of like the dangers of the forest and how you shouldn't be out there alone. But I also think there's some other kind of message with the missing people and like hallucinations and tragedies, how that can really affect your life. But I don't really know how it all ties together and what the director is actually trying to say here. So when you have a message that isn't very clear and you kind of have a story that's not written well, I can't give it a good score. So I'm going to give a score of this film a 1.5 out of 5. I really wanted to like this film as I do feel that it was shot well. And I feel like there's ideas here and a foundation to make a good movie, but it's just not executed well. And I think also too, with this being a first time director, and I'm sure she wrote this film as well, that lack of experience definitely came into effect here. And unfortunately, it's just not a good film. Have you checked out Lovely, Dark, and Deep? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? And if you haven't checked it out, are you going to check it out soon on VOD? Leave any and all comments down below in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.